Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another caffeinated episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. Today on the show, if you're watching the video version of this, you can already see, but for the audio listeners, I am very happy and excited to announce that I'm not solo today. I actually have a guest. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to my good friend, Steph.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the show. How's it going?
How's it going? Good. I'm excited to be here.
Glad you're here. It's a nice day. We decided to shoot this episode in the back of a coffee shop. So hopefully you guys don't hear airplanes and people taking trash out and all the shenanigans. But you know what? Like, I was thinking about this coming here this morning about like background stuff. Like a good chunk of this audience, I'm assuming, single parents in general. I don't think we're not accustomed to noise and chaos. So I think our audience will be okay.
Definitely
with
easy
stuff
to
going on.
Tone it out when you're used to it all the time.
Literally, yes, exact. So I think we're fine. I think we're good. Hope you all checking out the show are doing well. We'll get into, well, actually, before we got to let the people know you a little bit. You can't just have you on the show and start getting into the deep stuff without getting to know you for a sec.
Course,
so I'm going to lean back. I'm going to get comfy. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Obviously, maybe you could assume this being on the Single Parents Podcast. Steph is a single mom herself.
Correct.
So we love to see that. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been a single mom for almost 5 years now. Oh my gosh, do I know anything about myself?
Ooh. Is this like going to be like therapy for you as you're like live on the spot, like kind of breaking down your own self?
You want me to tell you about my kid? I can list off the facts. What do I know about me? I am a florist and I work in a bridal shop and I love my job. It's so fun. I don't know. I just like to read a lot.
Okay, what are we reading today?
Right now I'm reading a book called The Will of the Many. It's a fantasy, kind of like, almost feels like a grown-up Harry Potter. I don't know really how to explain it, but...
So it's like fiction?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
It's interesting. I'm not super far into it, but it's my 12th book of the year, so...
Wait, of 2024?
Yes.
12th book? And
yes.
It's only February.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is impressive.
Yeah, so I guess you could say I'm an avid reader. I guess
would
that's
say
how I
so.
could describe myself.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of the last book I read. I think it's technically the user manual to my podcast recorder was like the last book.
It counts.
Well,
I think
you.
My biggest thing is people forget that they can read for fun. And I think a lot of times if I start a book and I don't like it, I just won't read it. And I think a lot of people think like, oh my God, I started this book, I have to finish it. Or I haven't read a book in so long, I'm going to make... And if you're not enjoying it, don't do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess it's like a TV show, right?
Yeah.
Like we binge shows on Netflix or whatever. But you're right. Like if I'm not feeling a show,
you would never watch it through to the end.
I never thought about applying that to books. I'm not going to lie right now. I never thought about that concept.
Yeah, I think because I have a lot of people who are like, how do you read that much? And I'm like, because I actively enjoy it.
Makes sense.
But I feel that way about everything in life. If I am not actively enjoying or getting something out of an activity I'm doing, I'm obviously not going to keep doing it.
True.
So it's the same with reading.
Well, you just inspired me. I'm going to go down
I hope you pick up your first book in a while.
Local library and start with some I have kids books at home. I have Hank the Angry Rabbit. Maybe I'll go home and
Maybe
read
it's a good place
Hank
to start.
I'll go. All right, there's my commitment to you. By episode 22 next week, I'll have read Hank the Angry Rabbit.
I think that's a perfect place
to
start.
What are you at, 12? So I only got 11 more books, and then hopefully I'll catch up too soon. Especially if the books I'm reading are 10-page kids books, then I'll
you might
do that
catch up way fast.
I got this. I got this. Well, Steph, we're thankful to have you on the show again. We'll keep trekking on and get into some cool topics I want to break down with you. But everybody, we're very thankful that you all are joining us for this episode as well. Before we do continue on, I just wanted to ask you to do maybe a few things if you're feeling good today. The first thing to do is just to make sure you yourself have hit subscribe on the podcast itself. Make sure you turn on automatic downloads, YouTube, all the things, so that way you never miss an episode in the future. The second thing that you can do is just share the podcast. Share the podcast with a friend, with a family member, with a neighbor, with somebody at your local library as you're starting your reading adventure.
Yes.
Just like Steph. Go share the podcast so it spreads the show to more people. We get more voices on the show. We keep building this community, all that good stuff. And then last but not least, only do this if you think this is worthy of it, if you think this is legit. But it would mean so much to me if you would go and just rate the podcast 5 stars, highest possible rating on your favorite platform. That way it helps boost up my ego so I can go to bed feeling accomplished. So thank you. Appreciate that. But also, practically, it just tells the algorithms out there that the show is legit, and it passes it along to more people.
Something to relate to.
All right, well, Steph, since we have you on the show in particular, I wanted to really get into this topic with you because first of all, I'll just admit, I'm making a big assumption when I say this, so this segment might be super short because I might say this and you might just be like, actually that's not the case, and then we'll just cut to segment number 2. But my big assumption about you, and again, this is why I want your perspective, your insights, your thoughts, all the stuff on this. It just seems like you're very, very good, to be honest, at simply enjoying your daughter, having a good time with your daughter, having fun with your daughter, smiling with your daughter, all those things. And I guess for some context as to what I'm asking, like, I know, like, us as parents in general, we love our kids, we'll die for our kids, we like hanging out with our kids, all the things. But sometimes, I think particularly for single parents, it can be tricky, like really actively, consistently enjoying time with our kids because, number one, practically, as single parents, we have a lot of stuff that we just got to get done with work and pick up and drop off and house and cooking and stuff like that. So maybe at the end of the day, when we have like a half an hour free to where we can play a game with our kids or read a book, we're like so drained and we're just like, you know what, just go get ready for bed. I can't do this. I need to go to bed, what have you. But just in general, not even taking single parents into consideration, parenting in general, it could just be really easy just to get caught up in the parenting role and the things, the responsibilities, whatever, that we just forget, like, hey, we can have fun with our kids. We can enjoy that time because they're growing. Eventually, they're going to be assumably moving out of the house, all that stuff. So all that set up to say, is that accurate about you? Do you legit love hanging out with your kid?
I definitely do. I think, like you're saying, it is so easy to get caught up in the everyday aspect. And I think it's especially hard during the school year.
Oh, right.
You know, and it's something that I have to be actively thinking about all the time. And not because I have to tell myself to enjoy my kid. Obviously, I think that comes natural. Anyone who's met her knows that she is just a ball of fun. She's so smart. She's an awesome kid.
She's pretty cool.
But I think especially I find myself as she's getting older through the school year, it's really easy to, you know, you have your routines every day. You get up in the morning and it's this mad dash to get everyone ready and get out the door. And then they go to school and you go to work all day. And then you have the school pickup and then you have homework and you have to make dinner and you have lunch. And it's so easy to just kind of compartmentalize your day in a way that you, by the end of the day, are so burnt out. But when I put it in perspective for myself, she is too. So she's going to school all day. And especially now that they've moved to the 4-day school week, we had a really hard time with that at first because it's such a long day. I don't know if you see that with your girls too. But when I thought about the fact, I'm like, she's going to school for as long as I'm at work.
That's a good point.
It's a very long day for our kids too. So it's really hard, I think, for them to come home and not get any active fun time. And a lot of times it's so easy to just like give them their tablet and say like, oh yeah, go watch your show. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I don't do that sometimes. Sometimes it just genuinely is like, I just want to sit on the couch and read a book or watch a show. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think for me, when I really put it in perspective and think about how fast she's growing up, it's so important to me that she can look back on her childhood and remember that we had fun together. And I don't ever want her to look back and be like, well, all my mom did was work or do the laundry or cook dinner. Even cooking dinner, we cook dinner together, So it's just little things that you can include them in and actively enjoy it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I guess man, this is why I like having guests on the show, because I taken so much juicy, good information that I'm legit gonna walk away remembering, because I guess I never really thought about seeing it from the perspective of them.
Right.
And the fact that you're right. They have lives too. They're off, especially kids in school, and maybe some of you listen to have teenagers and stuff like that. They have things they're processing, they're working through, and they're going to be exhausted and tired. And so that time that we make to enjoy each other is not even just for me, I need to enjoy my kids, but it's also they need to enjoy us and vice versa.
Yes.
And I guess I just never really thought about that before. That's a good point.
And I think, honestly, as parents, we have a really bad habit of always thinking our problems, our emotions are bigger than theirs.
Yep.
And I think that when you really think about, they're just learning how to deal with stress. They're just learning how to deal with not having a good day at school. And that might come out in them kind of being a turd.
Yeah.
But if you really think about they don't really know how to deal with it. And if you're not teaching them, it's okay to put that stress down and have fun.
Yep.
Because I think the biggest thing in my life is I go have fun. I go let loose with my friends.
True.
I go have a drink. And so the only way they can do that typically is through you. So it's honestly, it's something I had to really definitely put into perspective for myself.
I think looking at this for me, I think, how is it I think the big thing with me is that as somebody with a co-parenting schedule, week on, week off, that's how my schedule works.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes what happens is that we go throughout our week, especially during the school year, Monday through Thursday for our area, 4 days of school a week. Friday, I still have to work, so they kind of just hang out. So by the time Saturday gets there, we've kind of just basically did a whole bunch of stuff for 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, okay, so I have them all day Saturday, but then tomorrow we're going to basically start getting ready because you're going back to mom's house tonight.
Right.
So then I talked about this on a couple of episodes ago. My guilt starts to ramp up. And okay, well, now we need to just have a whole bunch of fun on Saturday because I was just kind of all over the place Monday through Friday, and now I feel guilty. So now we need to go and spend a bunch of money or try to do this or try to do that and whatever. But I think that one thing I need to work on is, as you were saying, Monday through Friday, look for opportunities to implement fun time. And it doesn't have to be big or extravagant, like you said. Maybe it's making dinner, or maybe it's going on a walk after dinner or something like that. That way, for me, when Saturday comes, I'm not trying to basically live into my guilt and try to make a whole bunch of fun stuff happen. But along the way, we're just enjoying each other in the little things.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And I think that I was listening to a show yesterday or the day before, and they were talking about the fact that one aspect of parenting that we can remind ourselves and live in, and you kind of are speaking to this, is in the fact that we get to kind of go through a whole bunch of first again with our kids and enjoy a lot of that stuff that we remember from our childhood, like losing our first tooth or going to maybe our first school dance, or maybe it's learning how to ride a bike, all that fun stuff that we remember with our parents. If we had those type of childhoods growing up, we can get to experience a lot of that with them for the first time or as they're trying to figure it out. And I thought that was a good point too. And I think that's something I want to implement in my relationship with the girls, is not so much just trying to get stuff done and figure stuff out, but as you mentioned, realize the fact that they are figuring stuff out and they're processing it. So let me come alongside of them and let's do this thing together.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what exactly does a typical week with you and Olive, your daughter, look like? How practically are you guys having fun, enjoying some time. I need to take some notes, I think.
So on a normal, so I also am on a 50-50 schedule with her dad. So on the weeks that she's with me, we have a pretty normal schedule. In the mornings, I like to just let her do her own thing. I'm not a morning person. I will admit to that.
All right, there you go.
She wakes up on her own. Sometimes I don't know how I ended up with the most early riser morning person as
Even
a child.
Even on school days?
School days,
really?
Weekends.
Oh, wow.
She woke up at 6:30 this morning.
Ugh,
yeah.
Yeah.
But she gets up. She kind of does her own thing. She makes her own breakfast. She's a super independent kid, which is super nice for me. But, in the mornings, we both kind of do our own thing, get ready, get to school together. And then, obviously work and school, whatever. I typically after school, she goes to Boys and Girls Club. So she has a little fun there before we go home. And then we go home. We'll put music on while we make dinner, and Olive is a big fan of dance parties, so there's often dance parties at our house.
Love it.
But my favorite part of the night is when we're done with everything, kind of in between. We've had dinner, we've done all the things we have to do.
Okay.
And then when we're just kind of hanging out in between her doing her reading and getting ready for bed, she likes to just play, and I just hang out with her. And it doesn't even have to I'm not even an active participant other than her, oh, Mom, look at this, or Mom, I'm doing this. And I am actively listening to her. Because I think partly it's really easy your kids are off playing and just to kind of be like, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Especially,
yes.
I'm sure, Dad, look at this. And then it's
Nothing. Yep, all the time.
But I think a big thing for me is just when she is having fun and using her imagination, I like to pay attention.
Yeah.
And, feed into what she's doing and actively listen to what she's talking about. And I think a big thing is she is one of those kids that it's like, how'd your day go today? And her answer is always fine. So I'm never getting anything out of her, ever. So I think those are the moments when she will be like, oh, today at school, I, did this with my friends or whatever. And those are the moments when she chooses to actively open up to me. If I'm prodding, I will not get anything.
Okay.
So I've noticed that those are the moments that she will, on her own, tell me a little bit about her day. Tell me about what happened. So I think right now in the winter, unfortunately, we're not winter people. So we're not doing a lot of activities right now. But in the summer, we eat dinner outside almost every single night. We play in the yard. We go up the canyon and take pictures and pick wildflowers. And that's the kind of stuff that her and I genuinely enjoy doing together. But in the winter, we have to get a little creative because neither of us likes to be cold.
Fair. Same. But no, I appreciate you saying that because, again, I'm just confessing. I function out of a lot of guilt when it comes to parenting sometimes because I'll notice for myself what I'll do is, so you're talking about times she'll mention legit stuff hey, in school this happened or this is this. I'll have those times with my kids throughout the week. For example, they'll have a piece of art that they made about something and they'll show me while we're driving somewhere or where I'm trying to do something. So I'm half focused on whatever, half listening. And then I'll be like, okay, that's cool. But then they'll go back to their mom's house and I'll see that drawing sitting on the table.
Yeah.
And I'll think back oh, she was telling me that she drew this for her friend because her friend is sick, blah, blah. And then I'll be like, oh, I should have stopped and actually listened. I was listening, but you know what I mean? And so my guilt comes in. And so that's something I've tried to just be, I guess, just aware of for myself is to, as much as possible, slow down and be present in the moments because I function also out of a lot of I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but I can always be going 100 miles an hour. That's just how my personality is. I just can always figure something out to do. So it's hard to be super transparent for me to sit and just to watch them play or watch them draw because I get anxious and I'm I could be up editing this podcast, I could go do the dishes, I can always find something. So I have to work on almost not, I don't know if forcing myself is the right word, but reminding myself that the dishes can wait. The podcast is not that important. This can do just sit and be present because all that other stuff can either be pushed to later, or a year from now, you're not going to remember that you didn't wash the bowl of yogurt, and you're going to remember like you sat and you played unicorns with your kids. But like that is something like I really need to work on for sure.
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing is I'm the same way. Like, it's so easy for me to just pack my schedule full because I like to be going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have things to do. But I've really been pushing myself. And I think because we live alone and we're the sole person in charge of the household, it's really easy to like, well, if I don't do the dishes, they're not going to get done.
Yep.
If I don't fold this load of laundry, they're going to sit in the basket. Nobody's going to come in and have my back and help me out, which is fine. We make it work. We do what we have to do. But I think sometimes I finally have gotten to the point that I'm like you said, the world is not going to end if I don't load my dishwasher tonight. It really isn't. And I think it's something I was actually talking to my mom about. And I said, I have all these friends who have these spotless, clean houses, and you walk in and it's like beautiful. And I'm like, I would love to be that person.
Yep.
I would love to have just everything's in order and it's perfect all the time. But I don't have time to be that person.
Right. Yeah.
And I have other priorities on top of being that person. So if my dishes don't get done, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. If I choose to hang out with Olive instead of doing a load of dishes, I'm not going to be upset. I'm just going to have fun with her, and I'll do the dishes tomorrow or after she goes to bed or whatever it may be. Because I think we put so much pressure on ourselves because we are the sole caretaker of the household.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Well, I appreciate you helping me even legit process a lot of that, because it really is something I am still figuring out and working on. And so I appreciate you speaking into that. And then for all of you out there checking this episode out, share your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear maybe you have some advice, or maybe you can relate, or what, maybe you're at a season of life that's a little bit further on in your relationship with your kids than maybe even us, and you have grown kids, and you can kind of speak into what it looks like now looking back, remembering some of those early times and how you were able to navigate all that. Anyways, just let us know, send us DMs, do all the things, use the email, thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you.
Something to think about.
So as of the recording of this episode, a big hot show right now. First of all, I gotta see, do you even know about the show? Is Love is Blind. Do you know much of Love?
I do. I have not watched this season, but I've watched past seasons.
So you know the show, you get the concept. All right. So for those of you who just maybe don't know, I'm assuming, knowing our demographic, that many of you probably already do know, but just in case, Love is Blind is like a Netflix show where basically you got a bunch of guys, you got a bunch of girls, they go on speed dating scenarios for 10 days, but the gimmick is that they're behind these big light up walls or whatever they are, and they can only just talk to the other person behind the wall, and that's it. They don't see the person. They, usually not supposed to be given hints as to what they look like, because the whole thing is hey, is love blind? Can you fall in love with somebody without seeing them, knowing their character, blah, blah, blah. So that's the show. So for you, I guess, I don't know if it's really a spoiler, it's kind of the basic of this season. Oh, so so you know all the juicy stuff. So at the time of recording this episode, I think 9 episodes have been out, and so there's still a few more episodes and then the finale. So I'm going to bring up this person and things, knowing the cast of this show and all the stuff that always comes out, like you said, on TikTok and stuff like that. Who knows what people's opinion is going to be of this person by the time the show actually comes out. But on this season of the show, there is a single mom. I think her name is Jessica. And she went through the whole scenario, blah, blah, blah. But she's basically doing the typical Love is Blind thing, dating people, talking, whatever. But she made a choice pretty early on, I think, of hey, I'm just going to share the basic stuff with these people, let them know who I am. But she has a 10-year-old daughter. But I'm not going to bring up the fact that I'm a single mom with a 10-year-old daughter unless I know we're really heading in that direction. So she ends up meeting this guy named Jimmy. I only remember his name because people call him Jiminy Cricket because they say he looks like a cricket. But I can see it. But anyways, she ends up really connecting with Jimmy. And then I think a few days in, she brings up to him the fact that she has a 10-year-old daughter,
Right.
and then stuff kind of ensues after that. But it was interesting. I've seen some conversations early on before stuff kind of like revealed how their relationship was going to go, about the whole conversation of like, well, should she have even waited that long to tell Jimmy? Should she have just been upfront with all of her potential dates from the beginning? Like where, and then that kind of goes into like just the overall conversation of like, well, when in a romantic dating conversation do you bring up the fact that you have kids? Like, is that something? And I know, like, I was texting you about this as we were going to talk about this on the show today. I was like, you know what? In today's age with social media, odds are if you're going to go on like a date with somebody, you've done the whole like social stalking thing. You snuck into the DM, maybe not the DMs, but you looked at their Instagram.
Right.
Maybe you're not friends, but you peeked, or you have a friend who's friends with the other person.
Especially
so,
living in a small town. Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
if like I get it, like in today's day and age, like it's not really oftentimes a secret about the fact that like you can figure that's pretty easy before you date somebody.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, I just wanted to get your opinion on this whole conversation regarding Jessica's experience on the show. So let's just say hypothetically, you were in a situation where you were talking to somebody and they just like, maybe you just happened to like, you were out on the night with the girls, you ran into the dude, he first time meeting, you can't get on your phone, and he's like, hey, so what have you. Basically, how far, if you were in Jessica's situation, maybe that's just a better, simple way to put it. How soon into the discussions would you bring up that you are a single mom? Like, what would that look like for you? What's your standard on all that?
I think for me, it's something I bring up very quickly.
Okay.
I can see from her perspective why she waited, especially because the premise of the whole show is getting to know you as a person and getting to know, like you said, their character. I think on a realistic sense, when it comes to like the real world of dating, it is, to me personally, very important that people know that I have a child. There's a lot of people who don't want kids or are not interested in being a step parent. And that's not someone, I think it just down the road brings more problems.
Right.
If that's not something they ever saw themselves doing. And then all of a sudden you're springing on them like, oh, by the way. So I think for me, it happens pretty early on.
Okay.
If I'm talking to someone, I mean, it's not like, hi, I'm Steph, I have a daughter.
Right.
But I think early enough on before it goes anywhere, probably even before a first date.
Okay.
Because I think it's just something, the biggest thing that I have when it comes to dating is they have to understand that I'm a package deal.
Nice.
You know, so I would never want to put someone in a position where they all of a sudden feel blindsided by me withholding that information.
That's good. I think I've been trying to think about it because, like, I guess I really haven't been in a situation like that in a while, but I guess I can relate it to back when I used to be, like, super active, like, on Tinder and stuff like that, or the dating apps in general.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you make the bio and you can say stuff about yourself. So I just remember back in the day being like, actually, I don't, maybe there was one time, I think that's how this happened. Yes, I think back in the day I didn't put on there that I was a single dad. I just said something random and then ended up matching with somebody, and I think we went and had like some drinks and stuff like that, but the whole time I was thinking in the back of my head, like, even this is like first date, like not like we're gonna get married or anything, but the whole time I was thinking in the back of my head, like, do I like bring this up, like, is she feeling me like that? And I just remember even like having my phone sitting there, like if I would have got like a text or something or a Twitter notification or whatever, my phone lights up. I always have like a picture of my girls as like the screen for there, so it would have like lit up, and I would have been, oh yeah, by the way, these are my daughters. So like I just remember like always thinking about that. So like I think after that, when I was doing the dating app thing, I just was like, I'm just gonna be upfront about it, because then at least when you go out with them, like, and it does come up, like you were saying, it's not a shock or surprise, or it doesn't have to be awkward, because then like you swiped right and you saw it in my thing, like girl dad, so you were okay with that. But I think also, like, to your point, for us as single parents, we have to sometimes be a little more understanding with the fact that not everybody wants to step into that, and that's okay. Like, that isn't me. And I've seen some comments about like, well, like, that's messed up that he would even have an issue with that or whatever. The other guy she was telling, like, he kind of like was like, oh, okay, and didn't take it like the best, and so people were like trying to roast him for that. And I was just like, well, like, it's not like an issue. I don't think it was an issue to him. It's just that for some people, it just comes down to preference.
Right.
And I said this on the show before, like, everybody, not just in this situation, but everybody has preferences on lots of different stuff when it comes to dating.
Yeah.
Whether you want to date somebody with a kid or not, whether you want to date somebody who's broke or not, whether you want to date somebody who doesn't shower or not. Like, there's all these preferences, and that's the whole point of like dating. Like, we all have those preferences and standards and stuff like that. And so if somebody's preference is not to step into a relationship with somebody who has a kid, or in my case, a couple of kids, then I don't think that makes them a bad person, or I don't think they need to be roasted for that. I think that's just, okay, then you're just not my person, because my person is going to be cool with the fact that I have kids, or like if she has kids, then our kids coming together. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that aspect?
I think I agree completely. I think it's super unfair. I don't know how he reacted. Like I said, I haven't watched the show. I just had, seen the TikToks about, but I do think it's super unfair because, like you said, if I'm looking to go out into the dating world and all of a sudden I find out someone has just completely different standards than me and all of that, I don't think it would be unfair for me to take a step back in that situation. So like you said, if it's someone's preference that they're not interested in dating a single parent, it's not really fair to tell them they're wrong for that.
Exactly.
Because even though you're stepping in to an interesting role, you're not stepping in as a parent typically, especially if you're dating someone who has a kid that has both parents involved. But I think it is a lot to take on, especially in a new relationship. So I think if you're not in a place that you want to have kids, I don't think it's unfair to say that you don't want to date people who have kids.
And that's a good point. That's a good point. I forgot about this part. Actually, so I mentioned that first date I went on. I think I didn't learn my lesson actually from that first date, because I remember matching with another girl. This is when I knew, like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. We same thing, didn't have anything about my kids on my bio, matched, went to sushi, and then I don't remember how it came up, but eventually did come up that I had kids. And basically her response was like, oh, okay, well, like, I like you, you're cool and all, so like, do you think that we could just like maybe hang out when you don't have your kids? Like, can you just call me on the weeks when you don't have your kids? And I was just like, oh, okay. like if I was looking for just somebody to like hang out with and to have that type of fun with, like, yeah, sure, I'll come over. I know I'm a kid. But like, for me, like, I just wasn't, don't really, that's just not how I am. Like, if I'm going to be with somebody, like, I just want it to be life, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to worry about whether I have my kids or not. Like, I just
not, like, feels like living a double life almost.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because that's honestly a crazy thing to say to someone, I think.
I
but
couldn't
no
believe
shade to that girl,
but I was like, okay, I gotta change this.
Well, and I think it is hard because when I was like actively dating, I don't allow the men that I'm talking to or going on dates with to meet my daughter unless it's getting into the area of being serious. So I think it is really hard. Like, where do you cross that boundary of like, okay, you can meet my kid now.
Right. But
I think it also is hard because they get used to this like lifestyle where like you can go out whenever, or, if my daughter's with her dad, I can go out on a weeknight, whatever. But then it kind of gets into this more serious aspect where it's like, you want to spend more time with me, but I have these additional responsibilities. And now our dates might look different because we're now bringing a child with us. And so I think it is really hard to figure out where that comes in, because they know you have a kid, but they get to know you in a different aspect than like the parent you.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't really thought it, because you're right. Like, if I am going on those dates, it's obviously going to be the weeks when I don't have my daughters.
Right.
And so, because I'm the same way. Like, I I don't think I really have. I think I shared this on the show. Like I have the same like kind of standard as you. Like I'm not bringing anybody around the girls unless I know it's like legit. And to be honest, I don't think I have, because it just I never had anybody yet that has gotten to that point.
Right.
Like we've like been at like mutual birthday parties or at the park and run into each other, like stuff like that, but it just has never gotten to that point. So like number one, you're right that the time that we spend with those people while we're kind of assessing all of that, it looks a lot different than the weeks I do have with my girls.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But also I've shared on the show before, like from my girls' perspective, since I haven't really brought anybody around, I'm always thinking about the fact that if and when that day ever comes, it might be weird for them and awkward for them, and they might have to adjust to that. And they've already like said comments about that, like, you know, I'm not allowed to like bring anybody, and I'm not allowed to date essentially, unless that's like movie stars that they know who are cool.
My
I'm like,
gosh.
okay, yeah, you
Taylor
can,
Swift is on the table.
Yeah, you can date Taylor Swift or Harley Quinn or something, like people they
perfect.
know. Like I'm like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
that's fine with me. But so anyways, like it's just it's an interesting dynamic, I think. And I know like a lot of different parents have different I guess standards or whatever when it comes to when they introduce the person they're dating to their kids, and so maybe their experience is different. But like I'm same thing with you, like I'm just taking it slow.
Yeah. Well, and I think wrapping it back to the original question, because I kind of took us off track there a little bit, but I think I can see why she waited.
Okay.
I think as a parent, sometimes it is hard to individualize yourself from your being a parent. So sometimes, I mean, it's super easy. Obviously, your entire personality kind of gets wrapped up in being a parent.
Yes.
Which I think is a cool part of parenthood. You have just this like tiny sidekick that's always with you, and you know, it's fun. But I do think sometimes it is hard to date, because it is hard to distinguish like, who am I, just me? And so I kind of feel like, I obviously can't speak from her perspective, but I kind of feel like she was trying to just show who she was as a person. Yeah. Because even as parents, we're obviously still individual people. Mm-hmm. So I can understand. I do think that there is an amount of time that it becomes almost like it feels like you're hiding it. Yeah. And I don't know where the line is, but I do think that if it goes past to a point where you're starting to have talks about a serious conversation, and that's the point that you drop it, then it kind of being, if you were on the receiving end of that, I could see why that would feel like you hid this from me. So I can see both sides, honestly. I can see why he was hurt, and I can kind of see why she did it.
No, I get it, because I think, well, I think she said this in the show, and I 1,000% agree with her, in the fact that she said, hey, like, I'm going to wait a little bit to talk about this, because the fact that I'm a single mom is a part of my life and may describe me, but it doesn't define me, because I am also a woman, and I'm also a career and all this stuff like that. And so that was her whole point. I do agree with that. I think it is easy, especially as single parents. Our life, since we don't have another person in our life sometimes who we're giving a lot of time and energy to, it does become so like ingrained in our kids and our relationship with our kids. So there's that. And I think that, but you're also right, and this is what I think of, is like that the balance of like, I don't want it to come across as like I'm ashamed of the fact that I'm a single dad and have my kids, because I'm super, 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 super proud of being a dad and have my girls. And so like, I don't want it, even when I have the conversations, for it to come across like, so I have to tell you something. Yeah. I don't know how to say this. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have 2 daughters. I'm not gonna like I don't want it to be like that. Shouldn't come
across apologetic. Yeah.
It's just the reality of it.
Yes.
I guess a fun little question to end with then for you. So you're on Love is Blind. You are in this situation. The producers are like, hey, you're getting ready to go behind the wall and meet your first person. Are you going to bring up the fact that you're a single mom in those early dates, or like walk us through, you're in Love is Blind, how soon do you bring it up?
Honestly, one thing about me, and everyone who I'm friends with knows this about me, I cannot keep my mouth shut about anything. So I know being myself it would come out immediately.
Oh, okay.
When they're like, oh, tell me about you, I'd be like, oh, so, this is what I do for work. This is how old I am. And I also have a kid. Like, it would just come out naturally, I think.
Yep.
So I think even if I like went in with a game plan and was like, okay, like I'm going to just, play it cool at first, I wouldn't. I don't know how to play it cool. I've never played it cool once in my life. So I think me personally, it would come out probably within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think I would be like, hi, my name's Anthony. I'm a single dad. I
Yeah.
would be like, same thing with you. Like, I'd get, but I don't think I would. I don't think, number one, like I think, here's how I'm saying this for me. I think I would have to try not to bring it up.
Yes.
Because like so much of my life, so much what I love is them and my relationship with them and all that stuff. Like I would have to consciously be thinking, don't slip and say this, don't say this, don't. So like that's just like too much work for me. And then I think part of it is like I would just like to think that if I'm truly there to find my person, I guess I would like to know early if they're cool with that, if that is their preference, because then I would know, okay, cool, like at least she's down with that, because if she's down with that, then we can move on to some of the other things. And then
it's worth putting the effort in to continue pursuing that. Yeah, I agree. Me. And I do think I don't know how, anytime someone, you meet someone, I, just got knee surgery a little while back.
Right, yeah.
The first time I met my physical therapist, he's like, because of course he's a physical therapist. What do you do for fun? What kind of outdoor activities? Blah, 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 blah. Immediately I'm like, oh, me and my daughter like to go walk the dog, or we like to hike, and so I think it's just such a natural part of my personality and who I am. And I think it's just comes out natural. Like, I don't think no part of me would, like you said, I would have to actively try not to bring it up. Yeah.
Well, you need to just overall watch this latest season so we can talk about it.
Yes.
Because I have a lot of opinions about the season so far.
I
so
keep
I need
thinking
to,
about
I need to do it.
Every time a video pops up, I'm like, maybe I should watch it. It seems like good reality TV drama this season.
It's so messy, it's so trashy, but that's what makes it so good.
Sometimes it's nice to just dive into that.
I agree.
Something to be encouraged by.
All right, and as we look to close out the show, Steph, I just want to, end it the way I usually end it, by just really sending the people out with something. Hopefully throughout this whole episode, there's things to take away and be encouraged by, but specifically leave the people with something to hold their head up high about, to know that as single parents, they can, that maybe they're just not alone about some stuff, and they can just be encouraged about some stuff. But when I have a guest in particular, I just like to ask the guest, what are you encouraged by when it comes to the single mom life? Like, is there anything that like you have heard, or anything that you remember that just really helps you in your day-to-day?
What really encourages me, honestly, on a regular basis is the community that I've built around myself. And I think as parents in general and single parents, it's really easy to kind of isolate yourself. And like we talked about earlier, really just focus on all the things that have to be done. And I think one of the reasons that, I'm very lucky that Olive has a very active dad in her life, and that grants me a lot more personal time than a lot of parents get.
That's a good point.
So I think something that really encourages me and gives me the ability to be more engaged when I do have Olive is also having the ability and allowing myself to also just be me.
Nice.
And I think I have a lot of really good friends, and I have a really good family. And I think that a lot of parents feel really guilty taking that time for themselves. And I think, going out to the bar with your friends, we're young. You should get to go out and have a few drinks and have fun. And I think I see a lot of people, and I also see a lot of the criticism. And I think allowing yourself to have that time and knowing I am still a good parent, and maybe even a better parent for giving myself that time to still go and have fun and do what I want to do. And I think even when Olive was younger and her dad and I were together, it was almost like you feel guilty for like getting a babysitter and going and doing something. And I think parents need to realize, like, you have to give yourself time to do adult things.
Yes.
As much fun as we have with our kids, it's so important to take time for yourself. And even if going out's not your scene, go for a drive up the canyon by yourself and listen to your favorite album. Or, I think I see a lot of criticism of, oh my gosh, like I can't believe so-and-so's out again this weekend. Isn't she a mom? And I think it's so easy to kind of, like you said, fall into the parent guilt of like, oh, well, she's at her dad and I have all this extra time. Maybe I should use that to like do all the laundry and get, but I think something that really, I think specifically in the past year that I've done for myself is really giving myself time to have a life.
That's good.
To be an individual outside of being a parent. And I think a lot of the times people don't give themselves that grace and allow themselves to have fun by themselves as a grown-up person.
I get that, and I really appreciate that, because that's kind of been like the theme of my life for like maybe like the last year in particular, because I was kind of sharing a little bit with this with you before we started recording, but like I just in a lot of ways have just been making sure that I am understanding me and being cool and comfortable with me, especially outside of like people's thoughts and opinions and stuff like that. And like I told you, and I think I've said this on the show before, like that's why I had delayed and kind of went back and forth about like really going in even with this podcast, because I'm like, well, I want to do this and I think it's important, but like putting this type of thought and opinion out every week, like people are going to hear and what are they going to think, and they're going to assume this about me, or they're not going to like that I say this. And so like getting to be comfortable with myself and knowing myself just to be is super important, mostly because in response to what you were saying, as a parent, I just realized that if my whole identity is even just wrapped up in like constantly thinking about my role as a parent, then what's going to happen is, let's just say like I remain a single parent up until the girls get old and they move out, they go to college or start their career or whatever they decide to do. Then I'm going to look around my house one day in, the next 12 years or so and be like, oh crap, like what
do I do now?
whole sense of being is gone. Like I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like, because it was so wrapped up in, so like I just don't want to be that person in 12 years. I want my kids to know like, hey, like dad loves you, dad supports you, but like this is who dad is, and this is what he likes to do, and this is like he's a person himself. Or like also like if ever decide or end up in a relationship again, like I want the other person to feel like they know me because I know me, not just that I'm a single parent and then that's my whole identity. I know, so there's a lot of layers to that I do appreciate, and that's really good. I like that a lot. And so like for you practically, you said spending time with friends, kind of going out, like is there anything maybe recently that you've discovered that you in particular like to do to invest that time in yourself that you're really like putting a lot of emphasis in these days?
This is gonna, reveal a lot about me. And
let's go.
Therapy is important, but I don't like to hang out by myself. I really don't. Like I really enjoy having social company. And there's the times that, it's nice to just be at home alone and unwind, whatever. But on a normal basis, I just love surrounding myself with people who care about me.
That's awesome.
And so I think I do spend a lot of time with like my close-knit friend group. And that is something that I really, like I said, in like the past year have put a lot more emphasis on, because I genuinely come away from spending time with these people feeling good about myself. And I think that's really important for me and for my mental health and, everything, is just genuinely surrounding myself with people who care about me. And they care about my daughter too. We spend time together as a group. We're, just a fun little girl gang. But I genuinely think establishing really solid friendships with genuinely good people and spending time with those people. And it doesn't even have to be going to the bars, whatever, just actually having that companionship in my life has made a really big difference.
Do you find that like getting into that mode of like hanging out with friends or going out or whatever is easy and comes natural to you, or is it something you have to like be aware of like, okay, like I should invest time with my friends this week, because if I say, oh, okay, well, not this week, but we'll get together eventually and soon, then like, I'm speaking for me, this is what happens to me, like, oh yeah, we'll hang out, man, we'll hang out, and then like months go by,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh crap, like we never hung out, and just because, so like for me, I have to actively put effort into making that happen, at least initially.
Yes, for
because
sure.
if I don't, then it's just, there's, like I said earlier in the show, there's always something else I could be doing. So
For
like,
sure.
is that how it is for you too?
I think, like you said initially, because I'm not a big initiator,
Yeah.
and I doesn't come across, but I am actually naturally pretty shy. So yeah,
I didn't know that about you.
If I know
that.
someone pretty well, it's
Okay.
super easy for me to
Yeah.
just like, sit down, and I never stop talking. But as far as like trying to make new friends and meet new people, which is part of the reason why I hate dating,
Sure.
I'm not like, I'm actually very, very shy about putting myself out there. So I think I have a lot of friends who have been my friends since high school. So they know everything there is to know about me. They've grown up with me. But as far as like making new friends and then initiating those plans with those people, I do have a really hard time with that. But I think once you do it, you're like, I should do this more often, right?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
had so much fun and this made me feel so good. But I think it is definitely really hard to get yourself to initiate that.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly how I always like make plans, and I know I'm gonna have fun when we get to the plans. I know it's gonna be legit, but leading up to it, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to stay home, and I want to watch Love Is Blind, and I want to
Yeah.
do this. But then, like when I get there, like we're having fun, the vibes are good, and then I always come home like, yeah, that's legit. And I never like usually regret it, but
Right.
it's just that headspace of like kind of the whole theme of, right, most of this episode that we talked about is the fact that sometimes we just got to remind ourselves that we can enjoy ourselves, we can
Yes.
put ourselves out there, we can have some fun,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, thank you. Seriously,
Yeah.
I hope you'll come back on the show again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you
Hopefully-
to our awesome producer to the side, Olive.
Yes.
She's been
Crushed it.
making sure all of the tech is running well, so we want to give her a shout out. And yeah, seriously, I hope you
Yeah.
come on the show again. It's
I would
been
love
fun.
to. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You heard it. Yeah, we have her on camera. She said it. I got it recorded.
Commitment right there.
Well, everybody, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. We hope you have a good week. And until next time, my name's Anthony. Bye.
Bye.